welcome to the Book is Better podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about Paddington.
Woo!
Paddington, the bear? I watched 7 Winnie the Pooh movies for today.
Oh, no. That's a disaster. I'm so sorry. Actually, though, I do love Winnie the Pooh. Do you know my favorite Winnie the Pooh quote? My favorite one is Piglet and Pooh are sitting together. And Pooh says, Piglet, how do you spell love? And Piglet says, Pooh, you don't spell love. You feel it.
Okay, just give me a second to play Paddington. Oh my goodness, he's going crazy. The train station.
Okay, for real, welcome to the podcast today. And yes, we are covering Paddington, the story of the most adorable bear. Well, at least one of the most adorable bears in fiction. We're a family of 4. This is a clean podcast, and we're going to be talking about a delightful children's story. So this is probably a great episode to listen to with little ones around. We will be spoiling Paddington. The book, I believe the first one is A Bear Called Paddington, and we are going to be spoiling the 2014 movie titled just Paddington. I don't think
It's a book called A Bear Named. It's not a bear.
Yeah, the book is called A Bear Called Paddington, and the movie is called Paddington. And so we're going to spoil both of those. I don't think we're going to spoil any of the sequel movies. So if you haven't seen those yet, you are probably good to go. And okay, everybody, today's fun fact. What was your most loved / favored childhood toy? I feel like this was put in here to pick on me about the dog toy ordeal. However, I don't have a lot of memories of early childhood. So can one of you, as my parents, tell me the answer to this question for me?
Since this is an episode near Christmas time, don't you remember the large life-size doll that you received one Christmas?
I did love that.
A little toddler.
Josiah doesn't remember, but he is forever scarred from the incident. I was opening a life-size Barbie doll. Actually, I will tell you when we watch that clip back, I think I was opening the thing before the life-size Barbie doll, though, like the little big vanity thing that you got me. I think it was actually the vanity box. And then the big box of the life-size Barbie was next to it. But I might be wrong. I could have been opening the Barbie. Anyway, my brother was born in February. And so it was December 25th, obviously, of that year. And he was crawling on the floor in front of this box. And he was in my way. And so when I opened the box, I dropped it on his head. And then my grandmother in the back of the video starts...
fix the box, you dropped the doll on his head.
Yes, she started screaming. So then I was trying to fix it. And then I picked it up. And as she was screaming, I dropped it on him a second time. And yeah, he probably never recovered. So sorry about that, Josiah. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, it's all your fault. So, but that's okay because, there's nothing like being a martyr.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. People respect you.
So as far as your favorite toys, I would say Barbie. There was a Barbie tent and there was a Barbie vanity and Barbies, your mom jokes about the fact that you had a tendency to take the heads off of them or break them one way or the other. So
not in a violent way. No, I was just discovering how things work.
Playing. Yeah. So we had a little Barbie hospital.
I do remember my Barbie tent.
Yeah. At least one of your Barbies had a screwed on leg. We did hip replacement for Barbie.
You know what? Thanks, Dad and Mom, for being such, so helping me explore engineering and biology and yeah,
that's exactly
just setting me up for success in life is what I'm trying to say.
That's right.
Hi, Josiah here. I feel like probably the right childhood toy to go with for me would be Lukey the bear. He's probably still in the attic somewhere. Yeah, so Paddington, I'm actually more of an expert on Paddington than any of you because I had Lukey the bear.
Of course.
Yes.
Well, my favorite childhood toys were 2 bears, Tom and Jerry. And
those aren't bear names.
They are because that's what I named them. Because that was one of my favorite cartoons was Tom and Jerry.
And they wouldn't get you a cat and a mouse, so you had bears.
The bear that lasted the longest had a light purple fur.
My name's Donna, and I'm the wife and mom. And of this family. And I had dolls, like baby dolls, probably 5. I want to say I had 5. I just had them. I didn't have like one in particular that was favorite or whatever. But I would put them at the head of my bed when I occasionally would make my bed. I did spread my bed up when I was little. And I would put them up at the top of the bed just across the pillows. And I can remember that I would switch their order so that the same doll didn't get in the middle all the time, because I have a fairness weird thing about fairness, and I don't even know why. But if I have a stack of paper that I draw from, like if, say, I've got paper on my desk and I use that paper, if I put new paper on the pile, I have to take the bottom paper and put that on the top, because it's not fair that the new paper gets used over the older paper.
I was wondering where I got that from.
That's where it started. You do that? Oh, somebody else. Thank you, Jesus.
I do some wild fairness related things.
Yeah, I had those 5 dollies that got different prominent places at the top of the bed. So there.
So you're the person that made me freakishly concerned that I would ever be unfair to something or someone at some point in my life, and therefore constantly think about it.
I'm really sorry.
Great.
But it's mainly about inanimate objects.
Got it. Okay.
I think what we're discovering is how much we damaged our children as they were young.
Everyone does. There are ways that you could have made it way worse. And so I think you're good. So, yeah, Dad, what is this story about?
Well, let's see. Paddington is a special bear who lives in darkest Peru with his Aunt Lucy and Uncle Pastuzo. That's always hard for me to pronounce. And he's sent to London to find a home and a family. Paddington encounters the Brown family, a family of 4 who reluctantly at first, well, at least some of them, take the sweet bear in. And although his curiosity can get the best of him often, can cause awkward situations, the Browns quickly fall in love with him, and his adventures begin. He's part of their family. They even name him eventually Paddington Brown. So he's part of their family.
He takes their last name. Well, we're going to talk about characters first in this, and then we'll get into the pretty major differences in the way that the book and film are structured. But yeah, we've got several character things that I thought were really interesting to start us off.
Alrighty. So in characterization, Paddington's Uncle Pastuzo is featured. He dies in an earthquake, which prompts Aunt Lucy to send Paddington to London. That's in the film. I don't think that's in the book. They simply send him to London, I think.
There is actually no Uncle Pastuzo in the book at all.
Oh.
Yeah, so he's not mentioned. It's just Aunt Lucy that brings him up. Mm-hmm. So they add him, which I thought, honestly, was really cute. I thought he was a great addition.
It's a sad story. I mean, there's the storm and things like that. But I think I agree with you. I felt like it made sense that Aunt Lucy would then say, Paddington, you're young, I'm getting older. It made sense that she would send him to London. So
now, is it true that Uncle Pastuzo, it was his hat that Paddington took with him? That was the hat origin?
In the
movie? Yeah.
But I think the hat comes initially from the explorer.
Oh,
again, in the film.
In the film,
still in the film, yeah.
There's no backstory in the book. It's just like, okay, he's from Peru.
Yes. And the hat in the book, I think Paddington mentions it saved his life, and that's why he doesn't want to get rid of it. But it was basically because of his first encounter with the washroom, which we'll talk about in our plot section. But yeah.
Then another film character is added, Explorer Montgomery Clyde. He's shown discovering there's special bears in darkest Peru, and there's a whole scene at the beginning where they, when they encounter him. The book describes Paddington's speech and his love of marmalade, which the film iteration comes through this explorer, but the book describes his love of marmalade and his speech as part of his character, and they don't really add anything, which I love the fact for a children's book, it left so much to your imagination that this would just be, this is make-believe. This is a thing. You didn't have to have an explanation. I didn't mind it in the movie. I didn't mind that they added the story in general. But I do think the book just giving you this lovely picture of this bear and him loving marmalade. Wow. Why would he do that? And marmalade's a famous English snack and spread and things like that. But
I think it worked in the book to do it the way that they did and leave so much to the imagination. And I think it worked in the film to change the motivations and the backstory behind all that. So I liked it. Like I thought it was just a clever direction. Another character add-on that's not in the book at all is Millicent Clyde, a museum taxidermist who we discover near the end of the film is the daughter of Montgomery Clyde, the explorer. So we'll get into what she does and how this changes things. She was, I would say, Montgomery and Millicent Clyde being added were definitely the biggest character changes that affect tons of stuff during the plot. So it was a fascinating thing. What's her face? What's the actress's name?
Nashville's own Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman. Oh,
Just
one of
split
my.
from Keith Urban.
I'll get into it later.
I will say her portrayal of the character that they make was great for what it was. It was very fantastical and silly and ridiculous in the right way for the film. So I thought she did a good job portraying the character that they put in there. So
I think that alongside Millicent Clyde is this film's Keith Urban, in a way. Mr. Curry, only in so much as he's sycophantic, trying to win Millicent's heart in the film. He does appear...
Which was hilarious.
He does appear as a curmudgeon in the book, but obviously Millicent isn't there in the book. So he's not like he is in the film, where he's a little ominous, antagonistic. He is funny, but he's trying to win Nicole Kidman's heart. So he kind of goes along with her dastardly plans for part of the film. I like the part where he's trying to be a creepy guy on the phone, and Mr. Brown tells his wife, "It's Mr. Curry on the phone with a funny voice."
He's like, "No, it's not. It's Mr. Burry." Like that was the best he could come up with. That was good. I also loved the scene in the book where Mr. Curry, they think like is coming around. He's going to be more fun. He's going to be a little bit better. And it's during Paddington's magic show. And I love, because like a bunch of the things that he's doing in these like illusions, he's, following a list of what to do. And Mr. Curry offers his watch as part of one of the things, except Paddington forgets to read all of the instructions and he destroys Mr. Curry's watch. And I laughed audibly when I was reading that. I thought it was just so clever.
Yeah. Mr. Curry had said, this is such an expensive watch. And the other, another character that appears said, "No, you bought that from my secondhand store for £3.
I think my only struggle with Mr. Curry, I like the character. I thought he was a great representation of that, but I couldn't get away from seeing the actor as Doctor Who. He looked exact. They didn't change anything about his appearance. And it just took me away a little bit. It didn't mess up the movie for me. It was still wonderful. But I try so hard not to see the actor as somebody else I've known them to portray. And so that was it didn't end things for me, but yeah.
Another character that is in book or film, Mr. Henry Brown, he's very important to the plot. But in the film, he's even more cautious than in the book. They added a career of was it an insurance risk analyst or some type of risk analyst. So he's always saying that's this many percentage points more likely, blah, blah, blah. So
that was one of my favorite, like, little just quirky add-ons for the vibe of the film that worked really well, was him going around and being like, did you know that 37% of accidents in the home before breakfast occur on a staircase? Like, I don't know if that's the exact quote, but it was just so cute.
Okay, compare that to Peter Capaldi as Mr. Curry. I never saw Hugh Bonneville as his patriarchal character in Downton Abbey. I didn't see that. He was Mr. Brown. So does that mean it's the acting? Is that? Nor
did I, but I did never see that show.
You didn't watch Downton Abbey.
I didn't watch Downton Abbey.
But so do you think, Josiah, like, would you think that's part of it? Where they didn't change Hugh Bonneville's appearance at all.
Yeah. I think what you're saying is that Peter Capaldi is a bad actor. I think you're right.
Sorry, Peter Capaldi.
So the children, Judy and Jonathan Brown, they're in the book, they're kind of like Paddington's age. It feels like, I don't know how old Paddington is, but they all seem like...
He's a little bear.
Like older children, but not kind of to that teen area of life yet. In the film, they're a little bit older. Judy is the oldest. She's probably like 8th or 9th grade. Jonathan, maybe a couple grades behind her, seems like 6th or 7th grade age. Both of them have like distinct personalities, distinct interests and talents. Judy has like a very small side romance plot and all this stuff. And I thought that it worked really well in the movie. She in particular is definitely kind of angsty. Like, she's got that teenager thing going on. I thought this was nice. I think in the book, because of how it's structured, and it totally made sense, and I don't have a problem with it at all. In the book, they're kind of just flat characters. They're just kind of there. But in the film, they're both rounded and given their own small character arcs, and like that you just find out more about them. And I thought that was a really interesting way to implement, like, in the film.
Yeah. In the film, Paddington makes the comment that Judy has this disease of embarrassment, because everything, that's embarrassing. That's going to embarrass us. You embarrass me. Yeah.
The book, Mrs. Bird, who's their housekeeper, a live-in housekeeper, which I thought was pretty cool. You don't hear about that a lot anymore. But I thought it was really touching that she was there with them and was kind of overseeing the family. I loved her role. Okay. So in the book, she's a strict housekeeper. She's nice. That's fine. The film expanded her role to this heroic, the comic relief moment. She's got toward the end of the movie. She just pulls out all the stops and saves the day with her wise sage knowledge of how she can take down the bad Millicent Clyde. And I really enjoyed Mrs. Bird. I thought the part was definitely a supporting part. She didn't try to overtake the whole thing, but her addition was great.
Well, I was going to say that this plot point with her heroic at the end reminds me of a British classic. And I assume it wasn't explicitly supposed to be a reference to Charles Dickens, but what it makes me think of is A Tale of Two Cities. Do any of you know A Tale of Two Cities enough to remember? The big bad guys at the end, I think it's Madame Defarge. I might be getting this wrong, the character names. But I think Madame Defarge is like the bad guy who's like turning nice people into the French Revolution is basically why she's so bad, including very nice people we like. And so at the end, one of the main characters' nurses, like one of her maid, Miss Pross, is the one to take down Madame Defarge.
Well, I have a distinct memory. It sounds like Mom doesn't want me to say who the actor is that plays Mrs. Bird, so I won't. However, I will say that I have a memory from the first time I saw this film, which I'm pretty sure I saw in the theater, where we'd gotten through like most of the film. And I think we got to her big climactic moment at the end. And I immediately was like, oh, and I named the character I recognized her as, but it took me the whole movie. So I do think it's interesting. You've got several of these people. Mrs. Brown, has a pretty significant part in another movie that came out around the time of this that is not a children's film. But I feel like it is interesting. It just is such an interesting thing to note, like how we see actors as parts they play and as parts they don't play. We were watching something else the other day and I said, oh, that's such and such. And I like named the character they play and I could not tell you the actor's name. Like I just, I think that some of those iconic roles just are somewhat unavoidable, but I do wonder why it is that sometimes we recognize them and then sometimes it doesn't even occur to us and we like suspend our disbelief so entirely.
A secondary character in the book and film is Mr. Gruber, the antique shop owner. The film adds a little more to his backstory. He's an immigrant, just like Paddington, and they relate to one another in finding a new home around London.
I think his role seems to be a little larger in the book than it is in the film.
Paddington like visits him regularly and things in his different kind of the things that he has going on.
Yeah. There are some other additional characters that are added for the film. The Geographers Guild members, a security guard at the National History Museum, and some things like that. But basically, all of the characters from the film otherwise are from the book.
Yeah, I think that what they added was really clever, but it didn't feel overdone. So that was great. All right, so let's get into the plot of this film/book. The book was very episodic. So I was actually kind of surprised because by the time we got to chapter 3, I thought, oh, this isn't like it doesn't feel like there's a storyline. It's just several episodes. So there are 8 chapters. Each of them is just kind of this chapter of something that Paddington goes through. The first one is where he meets the family. They're very like low stakes. There's no villains. There's no big climaxes. The whole point is just kind of this charming tale of this bear who somehow, I think it's Mrs. Brown maybe in the book who says he always manages to fall upward or something like that. Where he'll make some mistake, but Paddington's mistakes
upward, I think it is.
Fail upward. Yeah. They always turn into something better.
Just such it's so British and cozy. It's honestly what Thursday Murder Club, I feel like, was going for, but just not quite as British as Paddington. Paddington captures it in a way that I don't think is just for kids. I think it's cute for the whole family.
Yeah. And it does remind me too of like episodic shows where there were shows that we really liked, including a lot of British television, where there doesn't really have to be this big through line where we're following some big heavy plot and it's just kind of every episode is just kind of a fun little mini adventure. And I didn't mind the low stakes. Like I thought it was really sweet. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that were taken out maybe and not in the movie at all. But the film takes that and they take the concept of Paddington and they take several of the little things that happen in the book and basically say, hey, we need a plot with a beginning, a middle, and an end, which I think makes sense. It would have made different sense if you did this as like a television show and did episodes, you know what I mean? But I think as a film, it made sense to create an actual, they gave it a villain. They made there were several like storylines and subplots that were kind of going throughout. And I think that it worked as a movie as much as the book worked as a book. You know what I mean? For children.
I agree with that. Maybe this is the place to say it, or maybe it's not, but I question some of how they got there. I didn't mind it being a through story, with a plot and all of that. Some of the plot was strange for Paddington. In
what way? Like, what would you say sticks out to you as the strange parts?
The villain. I thought that was an awkward part for me. She does a good job. It just feels awkward.
So before we get into how we all feel about like the villain storyline, let's kind of start at the very beginning of the film. They introduce what takes us into something very different.
At the front of the film, there's this black and white section that it starts out with the explorer. That's where we meet Clyde, and he teaches the aunt and uncle to speak, and he they spoke language, but they spoke Peruvian.
They speak bear because when Paddington talks about it, he's like, "Argh."
That's right. I was thinking they also had the ability to speak, but I remember now. That's correct. And he introduces them to marmalade and customs and just mannerisms, of where he came from. The film then changes to color, and we meet Aunt Lucy and Uncle Pastuzo, who help him make marmalade. They teach him how, and they have Marmalade Day. And then Uncle Pastuzo is tragically taken from them during an earthquake. I felt like they handled this well. I didn't think Uncle Pastuzo, I didn't think it was like a bad thing. It was understandably sad, but they were able to move on. And I liked that. You could see that Aunt Lucy wanted to continue to help Paddington grow and be a good bear and all those things. So
I thought they handled it really appropriate. Like, it was age appropriate. What you saw and didn't see felt appropriate for the target audience and all of those things. I also felt like, because you're creating a narrative rather than just kind of an episodic story, that it gave a lot of motivation to Paddington. And like, it also explained why, despite his many, little mistakes and the things that he did, it also kind of explained why he fit into a family so well, because you got to see him as part of a family who loved his uncle and got along with him. And I felt like it was very age appropriate, but just in a good way. So yeah.
A wise little bear.
Yeah.
In the book, the Browns offer him a permanent home very quickly. The film, however, they give him temporary shelter, and eventually they're going to let him in. But there's also a part where Paddington leaves for a short period of time because he believes he's going to be asked to leave, and so he's just going to make his own way or whatever.
That section breaks my heart. He is laying on a bench in the rain, and I'm like, Mr. Brown, you are the worst. How dare you make this poor bear be homeless? It upset me a little. And then I was very glad, obviously, when he came back.
This was also touching to see Mr. and Mrs. Brown, to see their relationship and see how they unfold their relationship, but also how she's very free and fun-loving, and she's whimsical. He's very serious and overly concerned with safety, but you see how they love each other and how they act together, and how she doesn't lord. I never felt she was lording over him. I felt like their relationship was very, very well portrayed.
And I also thought it was cute that you basically see both of them are very fun-loving and freewheeling. And then they show you the scene where they pull up on the motorcycle and she's going into labor and this won't change us, babe. And he's like, no, of course not. And then by the time they leave the hospital, she's like, what is this? He says, this is our new car. And his hair is short all of a sudden. And she's like, it's very beige. I thought that was just such a good way to take that.
Comparison to that birth and Ricky Bobby's birth. So,
yes.
It's the American Paddington.
We're not covering that.
Oh,
yes.
Wow. Ricky Bobby, the American Paddington bear.
That's my thesis for my doctorate.
Okay.
I would like to hear you argue that dissertation.
Thank you. I'm much more interested in the connection between Paddington and Tale of Two Cities, but I will commence with...
Yeah, I think that's probably more interesting.
The film does add a storyline about the search for the explorer from the beginning of the movie, Montgomery Clyde.
Yes.
This is a large plot point, and it leads to a side quest, very, very funny, very comical, with Paddington and Mr. Brown at the Geographers Guild. Great trope. You see it in films like, I don't know, Birdcage, Adam's, I don't know, I'm running out of other examples, but I feel like it's a trope where you get the really serious guy, the really serious man, to dress up in a funny outfit, and the audience loves him more than they did before.
That whole thing was hilarious. And the dude like, oh, who are you? And he's like, and Hugh Bonneville picks up on it. I mean, just so well.
The best part of that being Hugh Bonneville doesn't even have a wig on. You can see his short hair out of the back of the hat or out of the back of the little head thing he has on. And it's so funny. The guy's like, ooh, that. And he's like, where's that beautiful woman? Find her. And I'm like, are you blind?
The film also adds a new villain, Millicent Clyde, who we just established before was Montgomery's daughter. And we discover that toward the end. It was an interesting surprise. And I will say, as surprises go, I wasn't thinking, I didn't assume that. Let me say it that way.
It's a twist that the good guy you're looking for, his daughter is the villain. I like that twist.
And I thought, we were just talking about the Geographers Guild. It did actually surprise me. And I've seen this movie before, but I forgot that those two subplots were literally connected. And then I was like, oh yeah.
Disparate parts. Yeah.
Yes. They give you enough of her backstory to see that she's a very embittered young woman, and she's very hurt by the trauma of her childhood. She felt her dad was treated badly, and so they have this great little story in there where she wants to get Paddington and stuff him and keep him on display in her own museum. This is where the heist adventure comes in that we talked about with Mrs. Bird near the end of the movie. And it was not only funny, it was also that satisfying, oh yeah, the bad guy, they got it. They got him. They were victorious.
I also like in the heist, it's when Mr. Brown is forced to become brave and not care so much about the risk. And it brings the whole family together because they've decided to rescue Paddington. And so I want to hear your thoughts on how you like or don't like the Millicent storyline. But I thought, regardless of her characterization, I guess, I do think that the way that they brought the family together and gave Mr. Brown that agency, and he really has this whole arc, was really interesting. I
thought it was a little awkward. Yes, it was an interesting thing that, the hero, the explorer that was the hero to the bears turns out to have a daughter who is the villain. And I got that. I suppose part of it was awkward because it included Mr. Curry. And I felt like in the books, Mr. Curry was a villain because he didn't really like Paddington and things like that. I guess for me, I was thinking this took it to a different level for a children's film. She wanted to kill Paddington. Let's be clear. She didn't want to simply stuff him. That meant she wanted to take his life. It would have been just as good for me if she would have been, I need to expose this bear. This is the one that my father talked about and he was discredited because he never had proof. Here's the proof. I don't know. It just seemed like it went a little overboard.
To me, what I saw was a lot of folks that I've known over the years who took a childhood injustice, hurt something, whether they were hurt or a parent was hurt. In this case, she was upset because her father got removed from the guild, and it caused them to have a less than rich and posh life. But how many people do we know who go into their adult lives carrying something from their childhood that they cannot get past? And so I don't like Nicole Kidman in general as an actress. Never been really keen on her. I think we said before, I felt like she carried off this role okay. I felt like she carried it off as the goofy evil villain. I thought the thing with her and Mr. Curry was unnecessary. I definitely agree with that. But then when I get to the scene where they're in the room and Hugh Bonneville's like, I have to get around there. How can I do it? And the only way is to go out the window and crawl around, scale around the building. And you see him and Mary and they kiss and it's like, no, you can't do it for the family, do it, for Paddington. So I guess it's kind of a mixed emotion there because I thought what they did worked. They tied up a lot of loose ends with it. It didn't just flop somewhere, I guess. Maybe that's why I liked it a little better than you did.
I suppose I kind of see the addition of a physical villain unnecessary because Paddington seems to be a story where the villain is the unknown. So there's always conflict with the unknown, the different things that he encounters, people he encounters, the way they may feel about him or the way that they may see him is a villain. And then, like Mr. Brown's, his desire for nothing to ever be dangerous or whatever, that's kind of a villain that he has to conquer. I see the villain different in Paddington. So I didn't think they had to have a physical villain that was trying to kill him.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I thought it lent into the absurdity that things like the bath scene started off. Like, I thought that the villain being absurd, I do see what you mean in terms of like it going too far. And I'm not a screenwriter. I don't know how I would have done it differently, but I can see where you're saying. Feels maybe like it went a little too far, but I don't know. I thought it was silly. And I thought, again, it felt as adults, you're picking up on the realities of what her saying, I'm going to stuff Paddington. You're picking up on those realities. I think kids aren't like the way that they presented it and the language they used and the way, like what you saw and didn't see felt like it was, again, age appropriate, where they're not necessarily going to be picking up on some stuff in the same way as an adult will like put pieces together. You know what I mean? So
I liked it. I liked that they had a villain to add tension throughout. I wonder if she is a perfect villain thematically. Like, what is the reason that Paddington is a good guy? Is it that, he's looking for family and the Browns are trying to make family work? So, like, family is important. So, is Nicole Kidman's character thematically opposite in that she is dishonoring her family legacy of exploring and loving nature? I think that that's okay. I think that maybe that could be tightened up a little more to make her exactly the opposite of what makes Paddington and the Browns good guys. But, I think it was good that she was able to add tension throughout the movie and not just be one episode at the end.
I also will say, like, I agree. I feel like she was a good addition. I will say, though, not knowing that twist of like her being Montgomery Clyde's daughter until the end, I don't know. I felt like the Montgomery Clyde storyline felt less satisfying because I really wanted them to find him and they don't. And so there was part of that I think, maybe knowing that earlier in the film might have been a little more satisfying or like less of a letdown. Cause I do think that was probably the one miss is like they go through all this stuff to find Montgomery Clyde. And it's sad because his legacy was destroyed and there's no other, like he's not actually honored in any way. She doesn't have a turnaround either, which is fine. I don't mind it if a villain is really a villain.
But who's wearing his hat? His new legacy is Paddington.
True. It does basically, it gets moved over to Paddington.
Someone could have said that, but
yeah, made it more obvious.
And if we want to get really deep with it, you could say her outcome of ruining her dad's legacy was contrasted with Henry and Mary having this kind of wild, fun-loving beginning. He gets over the top with the safety and the care of everything, and then comes back and kind of goes back to, yes, there's safety, and yes, we need to live well, but we should live fun and we should not be as cautious. So I guess I could see, I don't know, do you think anybody intended for that depth of comparison to be in there?
Hasn't it got like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes? Like 99% or something?
It's high. It has great ratings. It's held on to them. So
to keep it in line with the adventures of Paddington from the book, the bear called Paddington, the film borrows some of the iconic scenes from those episodes. The first bath disaster, although it's expanded, of course, for the visual medium. The underground scene where Paddington doesn't know what to do with the escalators and the like. The up, down, you have to, dogs have to be carried, which I found that interesting. The sign said dogs have to be carried.
That was so cute.
And so he goes and gets a dog to carry. That initial scene where they meet him for the first time, those are all pulled directly from the book. That
dog scary thing sent me. It was so good. I did truly love that one. And I liked that they did it and they like worked it in. I think there's also, I'm trying to remember what it was now. At the end of the Seaside Holiday, which is one of the cut scenes like from the book that's not in the film, there is like this thing where Paddington makes a mistake and then they're like, oh, he's so amazing. And which is kind of what happens every time. But it reminded me of something that they did when he accidentally saves the thief in the movie, or helps capture that thief, the wallet thief guy. There was something at the end of the Seaside thing that felt like inspired that scene, but they shifted it so that it had nothing to do with like going to the sea. But there were several book scenes or plot lines that weren't included in the film, obviously. So a few of them were Paddington gets lost during a shopping trip. My favorite one, he goes to the theater with the Browns and he doesn't understand the concept of acting. Like he doesn't understand what's happening. And so the story on the stage was this man who was like rejecting or sending away his daughter or something. So Paddington leaves and Mr. and Mrs. Brown are like, where are you going? And he's like, I'll be right back. And he goes and finds the actor and he shouts at him and he's like, you better take your daughter back, because he doesn't understand. So the actor this is just so cute. The actor brings in the actress that plays his daughter in the stage play. And the daughter character says, don't you see? Because he said, like, they'd made a point to say the actor was like in a bad mood. And the girl says, don't you see? Your acting was so good that this bear mistook what was happening for reality. So isn't that amazing? And so then he comes back and acts the second half of the play really well, which is so cute. Like,
and Paddington becomes
the line giver,
what's it? Line.
Yeah, he gives him lines.
The line prompter.
Yeah, and
so the line prompter boy is missing for this night.
He didn't come in.
Yeah, the guy was in a bad mood because he kept missing his lines because that kid was gone.
Opening night and lines weren't quite straight.
Yeah, and so the other two that I had written down were the Seaside Holiday. They go to the sea, and that was hilarious. Anyway, they're all really cute. And then the magic trick fiasco that he learns. You're talking about cleaning his ears with toothbrushes? Yeah, we did. I think that was added to the film thing. That wasn't from the book.
That was a different one for sure. Yeah, sorry.
So clever and gross, but hilarious. Like, yeah, I thought, man, I'm glad that they kept the first time he uses the washroom. Like the bath scene was so funny. And when they blow dry his hair and they finally get him to actually wash, he looked like apparently several of my favorite childhood toys.
Yep.
Where his fur looked burned, comes all the way back around. And yelly.
That's right.
You know what?
Poor bear.
Talking about what's good we've talked about like things that we thought were appropriate for children or not. For me, him pulling the toothbrushes out of his ears and they're covered and they're brown, it was so disgusting. And then just a few minutes later to see Henry in the bathroom brushing his teeth, and Paddington looks in and it's like,
and he makes a comment.
He makes a comment about it. Oh,
Should you
But
use,
for
should you be
children-
using that ear brush
Yeah,
on your
it's-
teeth or something, whatever the comment is?
It's the perfect potty humor for little kids.
Yes.
It's just so goofy and whatever. Yeah, I loved it.
Well, I know it's getting into setting changes, but I wanted to talk about the setting being modern day England in both book and film, as in modern to the book in 1958 and modern to the movie in 2014. So they update it to be contemporary, but obviously the time periods are very different.
Which I don't think the book was super dependent on a lot of the contemporary stuff. Like, it feels a little more timeless, but I did like the modern day London stuff in 2014. Like, I thought that was cute.
The film removed a lot of the talk about money. Mr. Brown gave him an allowance of £1 a week, and he talked about, how much it costs to get this and how much it costs to get that, which would have been contemporary to 1958, but would have been awkward in 2014. And if they're thinking about the movie being something that people would watch over and over and over, well, this is 11 years later, and it still looks modern because there's nothing in it that is super stamped to the time. If that makes sense. So we do see Darkest Peru at the start of the film and in the conclusion, and just not really a spoiler, but the third film is Paddington Goes to Peru.
I can't believe that you would spoil the name of the third film for
the
me.
name of it. But the Darkest Peru stuff, other than him talking about it, it's not in the book.
For what it's worth, I think it's Paddington in Peru, not Paddington Goes to Peru. But also, I felt like this was one confusing thing because they still use Darkest Peru, like they say it like that, but it's just a jungle. Like, it's not dark. I didn't really understand. Because in the book, it's like it's just spoken about, and then you see it in the film, but it's not dark in any way. So then that was like, well, why did we keep that and not make it look like really dark and covered? Which is kind of funny to me.
Unexplored is what that would have meant in the 50s. The places that were still undiscovered, untouched by the hand of Western culture.
Other than that, the film does add a few locations to support this kind of like through line plot. So you get to see the National History Museum. Mr. Brown and Paddington go to the Geographers Guild, which, by the way, I thought the design of that, where they use the little air powered, whatever they're called, suction to, send around information. I thought that was so clever. We also see Millicent's Taxidermy Museum. And then we also see several like contemporary London sites and some of the interesting things that occur in London. So like there were street musicians, for instance, that wouldn't have been present in 1958. They were really cute. It was adorable. So there were several things like that. But for the most part, the setting, Mom and I were talking about this morning, the setting itself really doesn't change a whole lot other than that time period. And then adding a few locations visually to support just the whole plot line.
Just to clarify, the musicians literally had zero to do with anything except they were just inserted in different places to be funny. Is that right? I mean, I thought, am I missing something?
No, it was just like a cute, I think the whole thing is this childhood. Well, so this leads me into kind of the next question. What did we like that was the same from book to film? And so like, I think that the musicians were one example of this kind of the lighthearted children's story where it's like not everything moves the plot along or is logical. It just kind of cements that world building of a place that's like a childhood fantasy type of thing. And so one of the things I like the best about this book that they definitely kept in the film is this is a talking bear, and it was only slightly odd to anyone that a bear was talking and eating marmalade and wearing a hat. Like, I just thought it was so precious to hear and watch Paddington just kind of go around and people are like, is that a bear? And instead of being like, oh my gosh, like, put him on TV. And it was so crazy. It's like, oh, that's so weird that that's a talking bear. But yeah, that makes sense. Like, it's just this acceptance of something so absurd in the sweetest way.
Mine, the things I liked were just pretty simple. I liked, I could probably find a bunch of stuff, but I like the fact that they kept Mrs. Brown as their housekeeper, because they could have, another story or another screenwriter could have seen that and thought, do we need, should she live in the house with it? What would her role be? I'm glad they didn't take that away. I thought that was very fun. And I love that they kept I love the line, and I'm not sure this is in the book, but the line where where they're talking about marmalade having the exact nutrients a bear needs for the day.
Precious.
I thought that was great that they hung on to those things and kept him looking the way he did. So those would be my picks.
I like that.
I enjoyed the escalator stuff with the London Underground. They did less of it in the film. It was not quite as elaborate, but I found that an interesting one. And I really did love the part of, dogs must be carried, so he goes and gets a dog. It just kept it lighthearted. And I think that's also one of the things with the band, which is not in the book, obviously, but the band is just to kind of keep it lighthearted. No matter what the plot is, there are these people just kind of singing about all the things that are going on.
I like how the film adapted and maybe even expanded, but certainly adapted the family element from the book, about the Brown family just accepting Paddington right away and trying to figure out, like, how do we live with a talking bear as part of our family? It's new, but it's not that weird, as Rebekah was talking about. But it's all about family and loving one another, and a little bit of a foster family sort of parallel, and community coming together to take care of Paddington. All that sort of stuff is in the book and it's in the movie, and it's delightful in both.
Yeah.
I think on that token, another thing I would probably personally say that I enjoy about this whole thing is just that Paddington making mistakes doesn't ultimately lead to them rejecting him. Like, they kind of don't know why he makes mistakes all the time, and they want to help him not have so many snafus. But I love that the book introduces Paddington as this character who, like, makes kind of awkward choices, or, he'll do something because he doesn't really understand how something is supposed to work. And it leads to some, hijinks of whatever sort. And like in the film, obviously there's a little bit more of the, like, he almost does get like rejected because of the trouble he causes, for lack of a better term. Actually, he almost gets kicked out because they think he's lying about something. I guess it's not really the trouble he causes, but I thought it was really cute in the book. From start to finish, it's like he fails upwards, and they appreciate him for that.
Yeah. The one difference I don't think we got into too much was I was very thankful that the daughter quickly changed over to loving Paddington. Now, granted, it was peer pressure that changed her, because she saw her friends thought, oh, that's so cute when they saw him, whatever. And she decided he was cute. But I at the very beginning, I was like, oh, I can't remember how quickly she turns around. Please turn her around quickly. She's awful. So I was glad for that. Let's move on to discover a little bit of basic information and trivia about Paddington.
Our friendly bear.
Yeah. The book released on October 13th, 1958, titled A Bear Called Paddington. It is one of 29 books featuring our friendly bear. The movie released on November 28th, 2014 in the UK, then December 3rd, 2014 in France, and then January 16th, 2015 in the US.
That's odd for a January release in the US, because that's after the holidays.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too. I didn't realize it. I don't remember obviously, but I thought, oh, it would have been a great Christmas movie. The book rating on Goodreads was a 4.24 out of 5. Thought that was all right.
That's pretty high.
Yeah, it is. And that was 86,000 ratings. So it's had a lot of hits out there. The Rotten Tomatoes critics rating was 96%. Didn't this hold 100% for a while? If I remember correctly, when it came out, I didn't necessarily follow IMDb or Flickster, or these things. But for some reason, I remember thinking sometime after the movie was out, wow, it's still at 100%. That's pretty cool. 96 is still amazing. The IMDb rating is 7.3 out of 10, and the Flickster audience score is 81%. So it's solid. I mean, I think from our comments would mirror many others for sure, that this was just a great film. The box office numbers look like this. The production cost of the film was $55 million. Opening weekend in the U.S., $19 million. USA Canada gross, $76 million. International, understandably, because this was a European flick for sure, $250 million. And so the total box office at this point is $326 million. It was rated PG. And what was it rated PG? Probably because of the
theme,
the scary elements, the death. I
think that's fair.
Uncle Pastuzo.
Yeah.
Hey, do you guys know who, don't look it up, who voiced Paddington Bear?
I recognized
I saw
it.
the name, but I didn't.
I looked it up at the end of the credits.
Ben Whishaw, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but you'd probably recognize him, but he's not been a huge role in many movies. I think two of his most recognizable roles were in the Mary Poppins Returns movie. He was Michael, he was the son who's all grown up now. And
was he in Peter Rabbit?
Oh, maybe. I was going to say Skyfall and No Time to Die.
Oh, interesting.
I think it is.
He was
I
cute.
think he was the villain
Gotcha.
in
Oh, yeah.
Peter Rabbit,
Mhm.
I think.
Fun.
I haven't seen that one.
Paddington 2 had a lower budget for its film, because I thought 55 didn't sound like that much for the first movie. The second one, which came out in 2018, it had a budget of only $40 million, and it made $227 million worldwide, like with everything included. So it didn't do quite as well, but it definitely still made its budget back and more. But that is so interesting to me. I don't know. I feel like we see these numbers so often, then they like cease to have meaning.
Here's something that I think about when you're talking about the numbers and the CGI. I never looked at this film and thought, wow, that's a CGI bear.
Really? I didn't.
They did such a good job. However, it's a toy. So, okay, it didn't have to look realistic exactly, but you just never looked at it and thought, oh, well, that's CGI or whatever. It's like, okay, I get it.
I think
He's
part
real.
of it is because the way they filmed it, they used a lot more CGI than just Paddington, because the way that their house was, you remember the doll house, right? Like, so that, and some of the other shifting things, the way that they filmed the bath scene is obviously like, there's a lot of CGI stuff in there. It's not all practical. So I think that there were a lot of things that were just subtly fantastical, like created with CGI, that Paddington felt like he fit, versus if you tried to have something that was filmed very like just practical sets and then throwing in CGI. Like, I think it was just very, very well finessed.
There's not a little motion capture person hooked up in a bathtub that goes down the stairs?
Maybe.
Oh my gosh.
Did you notice in the film that the tree loses its flowers and then they come back and it's
they
painted
grow
on the wall?
Well, and they're like
It's
growing
painting on
when
the wall,
Paddington
yeah.
comes back in, like, and so it was stuff like that. It's subtle, and it makes you feel like you're in this like slightly more magical kind of scenery of whatever. So author Michael Bond, he got the idea for Paddington when he saw a teddy bear on a shelf by itself on a London store's shelf on Christmas Eve of 1956. He bought it for his wife, and purchasing the bear is what inspired him to write this creation of what ended up being many, many books in a row and movies and all sorts of fun stuff.
I thought that was so sweet.
I was looking up like how expensive, like with the budget stuff, why was it so cheap? And I was seeing if they did anything special with, or also how lifelike Paddington was despite the relatively low budget. It's like, it seems like they just did the normal things with little stand-ins, sometimes a puppet, sometimes a tennis ball attached to a crew member for their eye lines to match up or something like that. But yeah, it seems all simple. I was also looking about the old newsreels that were used in the beginning of the film. There were like children being evacuated from London during World War II. You know, the labels around their neck that Aunt Lucy references at the beginning of the film. They were the kids holding all of their possessions that they owned in small cases. And
the Pevensies.
Just like the Pevensies in Narnia, that was the inspiration for the lonely bear standing, outlined at Paddington Station, wondering if he would ever find a home. I think that's a beautiful image that maybe in 2014 did require a slight reminder, whereas in 1958, 1956, whenever it was, probably didn't need the reminder as much.
Infamous bear. So a stuffed toy Paddington, he was chosen to be the first item to pass between Britain and France when the two sides of the Channel Tunnel were linked in 1994. They sent through a stuffed animal as the first thing to go through it. He also appeared with Queen Elizabeth II in a pre-recorded comedy sketch. Again, pre-recorded. Did we think the bear was there? During her platinum party at the palace in 2022 of the 70th anniversary of her queenship. I know it's not a word, but
say that 5 times fast. Platinum party at the palace. Platinum party at the palace. Platinum party at the palace. That's cute. So out of curiosity, this just like brings me to the question, how big an icon have the Paddington books been in British culture? Are they like, seems like it's pretty significant.
Well, I remember they made a lot of reference to it on some of the comedies that we've watched from Britain from the 70s and things like that.
And I did read something, just a note about in some of the trivia I was reviewing, that said the marmalade sales skyrocketed in Britain when this came out, and because it was such a beloved thing that, you know, and I could see it is timeless. I mean, we've used that word a few times, and I could see why it would hold its beauty and its popularity.
It's very warm and comfortable.
And I don't know if this would make a difference or not in the way it's so kind of all across the board. Everybody can know this bear and recognize the bear. But there's not really a Christian or a non-Christian theme to it either. It's just a feel-good story. You could say there's Christian theme in the love that they showed to the bear and that they
I would say the theming is like family very specifically.
Right,
yeah.
Right. It's just such a pro-family thing, and I think that would probably make it beloved as well. So
the first stuffed toy of Paddington was manufactured in 1972. That seems really late to me, considering the book started coming out in 58. Today, the book would have come out in 58 and the toy would have been introduced with the book. But it was manufactured in 72 by Gabriel Designs, a small family business owned by Shirley and Eddie Clarkson. They presented the prototype bear to their children, Joanna and Jeremy Clarkson, at Christmas.
Jeremy Clarkson?
Yes.
That Jeremy Clarkson?
Yes, it's his mom.
Shirley dressed the bear in Wellington boots to give him stability to stand, inspired by the 64 book. Paddington marches on, where he receives a pair of boots for Christmas.
And it all comes full circle because Jeremy Clarkson now has to put on those muck boots all the time to go and take care of his farm. Oh.
All right. The mini game is Mom's Surprise. As a nod back to our Summer of Potter in 2024, I noticed right off a couple of people that I recognize from Harry Potter franchise. So there ends up being 4 in this movie. Can you name the 4 people and who they played?
I think it's Mr. Gruber, the store owner. He is the professor, and I never remember the name. The Professor Slughorn, yes, that comes in toward the end of the book.
Yeah. So take 1. So Dad got, that's good. For Jim Broadbent, yes.
I'm pretty sure Molly Weasley, Julie Walters, is Mrs. Not Brown.
Bird.
That who's Mrs. Bird.
Julie Walters.
Yeah.
Her accent is very different, and she has a different color of hair in this movie. That's why I didn't place her until the end of the film. I was like, oh, that's Mrs. Weasley. Yeah.
I think I've always thought that was Tracy Ullman.
She's also in Mamma Mia, and she doesn't seem like Molly Weasley at all. So that has helped me kind of notice who Julie Walters is outside of that.
Yeah.
So, Rebekah, you've got 2 more to choose from.
Okay, so I said I thought I knew all of them. Now I'm thinking of 4. Those 2 I definitely were the most obvious. Let's see. Is Mrs. Brown one of them? No? Okay. I thought that she was somebody. I'm trying to place where I remember seeing who I thought that was. Must be an actress that looks very similar. Okay, hold on. So let me think. The guy who plays Doctor Who I can't ever remember his name, but Mr. Curry.
Peter Capaldi.
Peter Capaldi. Was he in it? Okay, well, maybe I don't know then. I thought those 2 were in it as side characters.
What if I told you?
Yeah, give me a hint.
What if I told you they were voices?
Oh.
Oh, okay. Who voices Pastuzo?
Is it Pastuzo and Aunt Lucy both?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, golly.
Yeah,
okay.
I would
Rebekah,
never
how
in a
dare
million
you.
years have known.
I know. I don't. I'm sad now that I missed all of that.
Timington, we mentioned
Pastuzo,
something.
Yes.
When I went through the credits, I went,
Gambon? Is that
Michael
right?
Gambon.
Wow. Okay. So Dumbledore.
Voices Pastuzo.
I was going to say Gandalf. I'm so glad I didn't.
And who is our favorite of all Harry Potter
Umbridge.
characters?
Elizabeth, the oldest Elizabeth.
She's Lucy.
Is, yes,
Sweet.
Imelda Staunton
Who
voices
plays
Aunt
Professor
Lucy.
Umbridge. That's
she
amazing.
Has won over something. She's won over my heart now as Aunt Lucy.
For some reason, just so you know, this has nothing. I'll do my verdict first, so I'll kind of introduce this. I know that it's the Christmas season, and so this reminds me a lot of the vibe of how this feels like a Christmas movie, even though it's actually not Christmassy specifically. It
Aside
also
from
reminds
snow,
me.
There's no Christmas in it.
Yeah. It reminds me of the vibe of A Boy Called Christmas or A Boy Named Christmas, which is one of our favorite Christmas movies to rewatch that's newer. It has a very similar vibe, and they have a live-in nanny in that movie. And the live-in nanny is the actress that plays Professor McGonagall. So like, I was like, oh, it's McGonagall at the end. Like I had that same kind of experience with that. This was delightful and charming. The book was short, easy to read. I mean, it's hard again to rate it because it's like, I don't necessarily just pick up kids' books, but like if I had children, I would read them this book, you know. So it was really charming. I loved the book's episodic nature. We've talked about that as well. So I'd probably give both of these a 9 out of 10. I thought the movie for me was like, I've put this on several times in the background. It feels like Christmas, not during Christmas. So if I really want a little taste of Christmas spirit at a different time of year when it would be weird to put a Christmas movie on, like I've put this on in the background. I think that it was really well done. It just makes you feel good. Like by the end, I just feel good in my little heart, you know? And so I love stuff like that just feels wonderful at the end. I wouldn't say that the book or movie were necessarily better. I think that they were pretty different, like very similar in that the characters don't change that much. You know, they're mostly different because the plot is what is completely kind of turned upside down. But like I said, I don't mind it in either direction. Like I liked the way they did it in both. And I would read or watch these again. I thought it was such a fun one to cover. So,
yes, I would agree with you. I don't really have a lot to add. I feel like the book is something that would be enjoyable maybe when life is stressful, because it doesn't include the Clydes and that whole story. And there's a lot of things that they put in the movie that are interesting on film and funny to watch, or kind of silly or overly acted for the comedic effect. The book doesn't have those, but what it has is just a sweet, pure tale of that stretches your imagination, and it gives you it's a feel good, mushy vibe. And so, if we didn't say this before, I think the book is right at 3 hours to listen to. If you listen to audiobook, it would be fun to listen to an audiobook with your children or read it. I mean, it's just lovely. And so I'm going to go with Rebekah. I can't really say one's better than the other, except for the fact that I tend to lean to the movie genre more so than books in general. And I'm so glad we covered it. Finding out that this bear was created in toy form by Jeremy Clarkson's mom makes it all the more cooler to me, because we've enjoyed him in his career over the years. And so a lot of fun things about this that I've really enjoyed.
I thoroughly enjoyed the book and the movie. I think there are some times when you just want to recapture some of that childhood wonder. And it doesn't matter how much it costs to fix the bathroom. It was just fun and enjoyable, and you didn't have to worry about all of those kinds of things. I think I would give each of them a 9 out of 10. I think I would mirror Rebekah. They're charming. I actually want to listen to another one of the books. I listened to this last year because I thought we were doing it a little earlier. I thought it was in last year's Christmas stuff, I think. But I listened to it again for this, so it would be fresh in my memory. And when I don't need to read a book for something else, this would be a very enjoyable book to read. And I enjoy sitting with kids and reading books. I need to do some more of that. And it's just wonderful. There's a wonder about it, and I enjoyed it.
So cute. I mean, I gotta one up you, so I think I'm gonna give the book and movie a 9.5 out of 10. Just essentially British, cozy, fun for the whole family, family coming together, loving each other, and bringing in outsiders and them becoming insiders, and the community coming together. It's just so many great tropes and aspects taken all together, put into a little story that just makes you smile. I've been revisiting a lot of Red Dwarf, the British sitcom that we all grew up on. And there was one YouTuber who was talking about how he was talking positively about Red Dwarf and how it represented the, middle class, even like the lower middle class of British culture in a way that wasn't often portrayed. And he used Paddington as an example of the cliche British culture that was often portrayed, especially internationally. And how, Americans just think that all of England is like Paddington. But, a lot more of it's like Red Dwarf characters than Paddington. So, I thought that was a funny perspective to have, that Paddington does feel essentially British to us, but it probably doesn't represent as much of Britain as we kind of think. It's across the pond. We're not connected to that. But at the same time, I very much enjoy that it's not just about being British. It's about being a family. And I'm going to edge it out for the movie was slightly better for me. I think the format of it works really well. But both of them are basically timeless classics that you can revisit over and over again, find new things here and there, and enjoy it every time.
Beautiful. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us and just spending time with family. I hope that you are enjoying this Christmas season just as much as we are. I hope that your decorations are up and that you are spending some time with family and hopefully watching some corny movies and hoping that Santa Claus brings you everything that you want. I know what I want is a couple of 5-star ratings and reviews. That's my favorite thing to get as a gift. You can also find us on Patreon, social media, and we have a Discord link in our description. And I don't know, from my family to yours, happy Christmas, everybody.
Yes.
Happy Christmas and Merry Holidays.
Yes.
Hail Paddington, Paddington is a bear. Paddington is a bear.